I want to tell you about one way God's love has turned the world upside down for me. Let me introduce you to Larry. There's no need to look around the church. Larry isn't here. You'll probably never meet him. He seldom leaves the island of Alameda where he lives. But yes, Larry is his real name, and I have Larry's permission to tell this story. Our story with Larry is a modern parable. Let me give you some background about Larry as our story with him begins. Larry was born about 42 or 43 years ago and raised in North Carolina. Neither of his parents had much, and their education was limited. Life was tough for his parents, and when Larry came along, it only got worse. In desperation, his father took off, leaving Larry and his mother to even tougher times. For several years, they lived this way until his mother found out that his father was living in Southern California and seemed to be doing okay. However she did it, I don't know, but his mother brought Larry to California when he was a young teenager and dropped him off at his father's doorstep and went back home. Well, Larry's dad didn't want him then either. So now Larry has been abandoned by both parents. Furthermore, Larry has extreme mood swings. He'd probably be diagnosed as manic depressive if he had access to health care. He self-medicates with whatever is available, like so many others on the street, with drugs and alcohol. He's never really been officially employed, so there's never been any help from either the government or from social service agencies. He's been mostly alone, except for others whose luck has been as bad as his. David and I moved into our Victorian in Alameda on a Saturday in 1998. Imagine my surprise when I went out on the front porch early the next morning as I was getting ready for church, only to be greeted by this man whom I didn't know, standing on the corner, yelling, obviously under the influence of something. "Who are you? I know who you are!" Expletive deleted. You can imagine how I beat a hasty retreat into the house, and then I snuck off to church. Eventually, as we got to know Larry, it became clear that Larry was actually rather harmless, even if obnoxious. We would speak to him and warily carry on short conversations, punctuated with obscenities, odd tales, and strange jokes, which demonstrated a clever mind short-circuited by drugs and alcohol. We remained vigilant. After a while, we would hire Larry from time to time to help with small construction jobs, not only for our benefit, but to help him get money for meals. As long as he was supervised, he was usually dependable. Almost from the time that we moved in, we had a rainbow flag flying over our front porch. One day it disappeared, neatly, pole and all. It certainly didn't seem like vandalism, but who would steal a rainbow flag? For a long time, we didn't know who had taken it, until one day, years later, Larry confessed that he had. You see, some of the guys across the street had been making homophobic comments about us. And he had told them, hey, look, you guys, they're my customers, and if anything happens to them, you'll answer to me. I suspect his language was a lot more colorful than that. With that, he had appointed himself our neighborhood protector. There's a lot more to our story with Larry, but that will have to wait for another time. Larry may have been my modern equivalent of Peter's Cornelius. I began by excluding Larry because he did not meet my expectations. I had made a distinction between him and me. He was unclean on so many different levels. I had missed the new commandment to love one another. I had excluded him because of the law. I had not included him in accordance with the gospel. I had missed the message that all are clean and thus all are welcome. Perhaps you know a Larry who is your modern equivalent to Cornelius. Someone you think is unclean, someone you can include in accordance with the gospel. Join Peter and me in a new understanding of Jesus' commandment to love one another. Follow Peter's obedience and see the gifts God has given to everyone. Welcome them, because God's love indeed turns the world upside down. Amen.